Hi, good afternoon, all. Hope everyone is home and safe. And today, I thought I'll talk to you about COVID 2019 and liver disease. I might talk in a bit in Malayalam because most of my patients are from Kerala, and I might talk a bit in Malayalam. So, when you talk about COVID 19, you should know what is COVID 19. So, it started in December 2019 in China, where they saw a cluster of pneumonia cases. So there was a cluster of respiratory infections that could not be pointed to any particular pathogen. They could not identify what caused this respiratory infection. And later they found that it was a previously unknown virus, and they named it as 2019 novel coronavirus. So COVID-19 is an infection that is caused by a new coronavirus that was introduced into human for the first time. And what is coronavirus? These are a large group of viruses that are normally seen in animals. So why is it called corona? Because of the spikes that gives it a crown-like appearance in the electron microscopy. So when you look at a coronavirus under electron microscope, it has got a crown-like appearance, and that's why it's called a coronavirus. And normally, these viruses are seen in animals, and they multiply and spread among animals. Normally, they don't infect the humans. But at times, because of the close proximity between humans and animal, when there's a close proximity between humans and animals, some of these viruses can spill over to humans and infect the humans. And many of them dies off, but some of them evolve and adapt to multiply in humans and spread among humans. And this is a source of coronavirus, the novel coronavirus 2019, that is producing the COVID-19 among humans. And there are at least 7 known coronavirus that has infected humans so far, of which most of them cause our common cold or mild respiratory infections. And normally it ends with a mild cold or mild upper respiratory infections. But there are 3 coronaviruses that has caused severe infections in humans. The first was the SARS coronavirus that occurred in 2003 and caused a severe acute respiratory infection in humans. Then we have the MERS coronavirus, that's a Middle East respiratory virus, again that occurred in 2012 in Saudi Arabia. And it also caused severe respiratory infection in humans. But both these were contained and it stopped with that. But in 2019, the novel coronavirus that produces the COVID 2019 infection, it is spread and become a pandemic across the world. So these are 3 severe forms of coronavirus that affects the human. And the latest one is the COVID-19 caused by the SARS coronavirus 2. So how does a virus spread? So once a virus has entered the human body, it multiplies in the respiratory epithelium. And how does it spread to others? So initially the spread came from animal to human. Initially it was thought that the spread occurs only from animal to human. But later it was found that there's a human to human spread also. And spread can occur in patients who are symptomatic. Spread can occur from patients who are symptomatic and also from patients who are asymptomatic. So even asymptomatic patients or pre-symptomatic patients can also spread the virus. And maximum shedding of virus occurs in the first few days of symptom. So initially when you become sick, initially when you have fever, headache, that's the time when maximum shedding of virus occurs from your body and spreads to the other people around you. So it's basically spreads from person to person and by close contact. That's why 85% of transmissions occur in families or persons caring for the patients. And main spread is by droplets. Droplets are large particles. It's about 50 to 100 microns. And these droplets spread when you cough or sneeze, you produce droplets. And these droplets contains a virus and they can spread up to a distance of 1 meter. That's why we, as part of social distancing, we advise people to keep a distance of 1 meter when you are speaking to someone. And can it spread through aerosols? Aerosols are smaller particles that's up to 1 to 5 microns. And these aerosols, they can spread for longer period and they can stay in the air for longer time and they can spread for longer distances. But as of now, we are not sure whether there's an aerosol spread, but most of the spread occur through droplets. That's by direct deposition of the droplets, the infected droplets on the mucous membrane, the eyes, nose, or mouth of a person standing near you. It can also spread by contact. So when you shake hands or when you hug other people who are infected, then it can spread from the infected person to your uninfected person by direct contact. And it can also spread through indirect contact. These droplets, when a person sneezes or coughs, these droplets are shed from the body. The droplets contain viruses and they get deposited in the surrounding places like your table, your phone, your doorknobs, or the computer. So it can get deposited there. And when an uninfected person touches these droplets, the viruses can come to the hands of the uninfected person. And when the person touches his eyes, nose, or mouth, or any of the mucous membrane with the infected hands, then he or she can get the infection. So that's an by indirect contact also, you can get infection. And how long the virus survives in outside the body, we are not sure. It can survive for hours or days. We are not sure exactly how long the virus can survive outside the body. So if you have COVID-19 infection, what are the symptoms that it can cause? Most of the patients who get an infection, from the point of entry of virus to the body to the time of infection, 97% gets infected in 11 to 12 days. So most of the infections occur within 14 days. That's why we advise an isolation of 14 days. So by 14 days, if you have got the COVID-19 infection, you become symptomatic. But it can range from 2 to 14 days. If the viral load that enters your body is very high, then you can have infections within 2 to 3 days. But otherwise, within 14 days, most of the people who come in contact with COVID become symptomatic. And what are the symptoms? Most of the infections are mild. 85% will have mild flu-like illnesses. And most common symptoms are fever, fatigue, myalgia. That is, you might have fever, you might have fatigue, you won't be feeling well. And you can have dry cough in about 40%. And about 30% can have shortness of breath. And another 30% can have diarrhea. So the virus can infect both respiratory system as well as the gastrointestinal system. So you can have fever, fatigue, myalgia, cough, shortness of breath, and diarrhea. And most of these 85% of people who get infected, it settles with that. So it's like any other flu, any other influenza, any other viral illness you get in 85% of patients. But in 15%, you can have severe disease where you develop respiratory symptoms. You develop shortness of breath, then you develop severe cough, you develop hypoxia, that is a reduced oxygenation of the blood. And this can progress to respiratory failure, and you might end up in an ICU. And the respiratory failure can progress to multi-organ failure with myocarditis, renal failure, and the other organs that get involved, leading to a multi-organ failure. And death can occur in 1 to 3% of patients with multi-organ failure. So if 100 people get COVID-19 infection, 85 will have only mild flu-like illnesses. 15% can have a moderate illness that requires hospitalization, and about 1 to 3% will end up in an ICU, and of which 50% will die. So about 1 to 3% of patients will develop a severe illness and die. And what determines the course? It was seen that from the studies in China, it was seen that the older you are, that is, if your age is more than 50 years, then your chance of dying from a COVID increases. And more than 80 years, your chance of dying from COVID is almost 14.8% higher than a younger person. So advanced age, that's the age increases, your chance of getting a severe COVID infection and dying is more. And it was also seen that patients with comorbidities, by comorbidities, I mean other diseases like hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic respiratory disease, or cancers. People with other comorbidities, again, their chance of dying from a COVID is higher than a healthy person. So if you have got a cardiovascular disease, your chance of dying from COVID is 10.5% more than a person without a cardiovascular disease. If you've got diabetes, your chance is 7.3%. And if you've got any cancer, your chance of dying from a COVID is 5.6% more than a normal person. What about liver disease? The exact nature or the case fatality rate of a person with COVID, if a liver disease person develops COVID infection, we are not sure what the case fatality rate is. So I just deal with, I spent some time with COVID-19 and liver disease. COVID-19, in addition to respiratory system and the gastrointestinal system, it can also affect the liver because the COVID-19 attaches to a receptor called ACE2, and ACE2 receptors are found in your liver cells also. So the COVID-19 virus can attack your liver, and in China, it was seen that about 14 to 53% had a deranged liver function test. That can range from a mild variation in LFT, like mild elevation in the SGLT-CPT, to very high severe elevation in the SGLT-CPT to thousands. It could be due to a direct effect of the virus on the liver. The virus can directly attach to your liver cells and destroy it, causing a deranged LFT. Or it may be due to drugs that you take to treat the virus. There are a whole lot of drugs that have been tried now to treat the virus, and many of them, the side effect is liver injury. So the drugs that you use to treat COVID-19 can cause liver injury, or it may be a secondary effect of the multi-organ failure. So patient with a severe COVID going to respiratory failure, cardiac failure, hypotension, sepsis. In such situation, the liver can be secondarily affected due to the multi-organ failure. So the involvement of liver in COVID can be either due to direct effect of the virus, or it can be due to drugs that you use to treat the virus, or a secondary effect due to the multi-organ failure, the respiratory failure, hypotension, sepsis that occurs. So are patients with liver disease at more risk? Most of the patients with liver disease, they have got associated comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. So all these associated comorbidities predispose a liver disease patient to increased risk for a COVID infection. So patients with liver disease like fatty liver or autoimmune liver disease, cirrhosis, or post-transplant patients, most of them have got associated other comorbidities like obesity. If you are obese, if the BMI is more than 40, then you are at a higher risk of getting a severe COVID infection. If you have got diabetes, if you have got hypertension, if you have got a cardiovascular disease, then such persons are at a higher risk of getting a severe COVID infection. Whether COVID-19 per se can lead to acute liver failure or acute and chronic liver failure is not known. No reports of acute liver failure or has been reported with COVID-19 virus per se. Most of the reports are due to either a side effect of the drugs that are used to treat the COVID, or due to the multi-organ failure or secondary HLH, something called HLH or cytokine storm that occurs in a severe COVID infection that leads to liver failure. Whether the COVID virus per se can lead to acute liver failure is not known. And what is the effect of COVID-19 virus on a patient with underlying liver disease? We have got a fatty liver, autoimmune liver disease, a stable cirrhotic. If you get a COVID-19 infection, what is the natural history is also not known as of now. So we don't know what the COVID-19, how it will affect a person with the underlying liver disease. We are not sure. But if you have got associated comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, or respiratory illness, then you are at a higher risk of developing a severe COVID infection. What about post-transplant patients? Are they at increased risk? All these patients are immunosuppressed. All the post-transplant patients are immunosuppressed, and they are at increased risk of developing all infections. So, like any other infection, post-transplant patients are at increased risk of getting COVID-19 infection also. And most of our patients, post-transplant patients, have got associated diabetes, hypertension, coronary disease, and that puts them at an increased risk of developing a severe COVID infection. And there are no data as of now to show that a post-transplant patient per se, as if you get a COVID infection, it leads to a severe infection. So any cause post-transplant patient, because of immunosuppression, because of the associated comorbidities, they are at increased risk of getting infection. Whether that leads to a severe COVID infection requiring hospitalization, ICU stay, and ventilation, we are not sure. But it has been seen that because of the immunosuppression, your body cannot clear the virus. Because the post-transplant patient is immunosuppressed, the body does not clear the virus immediately, and the virus can multiply in your body, and there's a prolonged virus shedding in immunosuppressed patients. So you can shed the virus for a prolonged period of time, and you can cause risk to other persons around you. Now, coming to liver disease medication that you used, should we change the medicines? There's no data to change, to say that you should change your medicines that you're taking currently. Please don't change your medicine without consulting your doctor. And patients can take paracetamol up to 2 grams per day for fever and pain. So if you have got fever, if you have got pain, you can take paracetamol up to 2 grams per day. That is, if you can take up to 4 tablets of 500 milligram paracetamol per day. Always, it's better to avoid NSAIDs like ibuprofen, diclofenac, because patients with liver disease, they can lead to liver decompensation, renal failure, bleed. So it's always better to avoid NSAIDs like ibuprofen or diclofenac. Please don't take them without consulting your doctor. If you have got fever, if you have got any illness, please contact the healthcare facility immediately before taking any medications. Do not self-medicate. So do not take any prophylactic medications. Do not self-medicate without contacting your doctor. What about post-transplant patients? They should continue to take their immunosuppressive medications as advised. There is no indication to reduce or stop the immunosuppressive medications. All diabetics and all hypertensives should continue whatever medications they were taking prior to this COVID. So you have to continue your anti-diabetic medications and hypertensive medications as it was prescribed before. There's no indication to reduce or change the dose of your anti-diabetic or anti-hypertensive medication that you were taking before. And as of now, no prophylactic medications is advised for general public or patients with liver disease or post-transplant patients. So there are no prophylactic medications either in allopathy or alternative medications that prevent virus infection. So please don't take any prophylactic medications. What about diet? Always have a balanced and healthy diet. No particular food has been shown to prevent COVID virus infection, but always have a balanced and healthy diet. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Keep yourself healthy. Always clean and cook the food before you take it. If you're buying food from outside, always wipe the containers that you get the food in. Always wash your hands with soap and water before taking and after taking the food, the vegetables and fruits. Always wash your hands before you do anything. So before and after cooking, before and after cleaning, always wash your hands. And hand hygiene is one of the most important things that have been shown to prevent the spread of COVID-19 infection. And at home, what are the precautions that you should be following? Always, besides frequent hand washing with soap and water and social distancing, always clean the frequently used surfaces like doorknobs. So when you go out and come back, you touch the doorknobs. So always clean the frequently used surfaces like doorknobs, electrical switches, doorbells. If you're working in a office, always clean the doorknobs, electrical switches, doorbells, TV remotes, cell phones, and always wash your laundry, all your laundry at around 60 degrees with the detergent. So these are the things that you should be following at your home and office to keep yourself safe. So coming to a diagnosis of COVID-19 infection, how do you diagnose it? You diagnose it by a nasopharyngeal, oropharyngeal, or a bronchial swab, and you do what is called the reverse RT-PCR. That's a polymerase chain reaction. So you're looking for the viral RNA. So you swab your nasopharynx, oropharynx, or bronchial secretion, and then you send it to lab for a RT-PCR. As of now, the no antibody-mediated test has been recognized by the ICMR. It's not available as of now. It might come in near future, but as of today, no antibody-mediated and antibody tests are approved by ICMR. So all the diagnosis is based on PCR from your oropharyngeal, bronchial, or nasopharyngeal secretions. And it's advocated only for patients who have a travel history or who have a contact with the COVID positive patients, or for healthcare workers who are caring for COVID positive patients. Otherwise, routinely it's not advocated to do a test for general public. How do you treat COVID-19 infection? There's no specific medications that can be used to treat or prevent COVID-19 infection. Treatment is mainly symptomatic. If you have mild infection, if you have got fever, paracetamol, pain, paracetamol, rest, good food, and plenty of water. That's what you should be doing. Moderate to severe infections need hospitalization for monitoring, basically for monitoring. And severe, critically ill patients will need ICU care for organ support. So if you have got a severe infection, basically what you will be admitted to ICU, and the basic treatment is organ support. You support the respiratory system, either with supplemental oxygen, non-invasive ventilation, or invasive ventilation. If you have got renal failure, you dialyze. If you have got hypotension, then you support with medications to improve your blood pressure. You support the heart, and if you have got severe hypoxia, then you might need a ECMO. So basically, the treatment in mild infection is symptomatic. You take good rest, paracetamol for fever, pain, plenty of water, good food. And moderate to severe infections will need hospitalization, and critically ill will need organ support. As of now, there are no approved medications for the treatment of COVID-19 infection. There are a lot of trials going on, a lot of trial medications, but none has been approved for the treatment for COVID-19 as of now. So what you can do, the main thing is prevention. So as of now, there are no medications to prevent or treat COVID-19 infection, and no available vaccines to prevent COVID-19 infection. So what you can do to prevent? The foremost thing is frequent hand washing. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or with the solution that contains at least 60% alcohol. The soap and water is the mainstay of prevention of COVID-19 infection. Wash your hands with soap and water frequently, and you should wash for 20 seconds, and make sure that you wash all areas of your hands, both your front, back, and make sure you wash with soap and water for 20 seconds. And that should be done very frequently. Whenever you go out, whenever you touch, before and after you touch anything, before and after you cough or sneeze, before and after you use the toilet, always wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. And avoid touching your face with your hands. Don't touch your nose, eyes, or mouth with your hands. Try to avoid touching your mucous membrane with your hands because the hands touches many surfaces that can be contaminated, and so always avoid touching your mucous membrane with your hands. And maintain a social distance. It seems that mainstay of spread is by droplet infection, and droplet can travel only by up to a 1 meter distance. So always maintain a social distance. Always maintain a 1 meter distance before and 1 meter distance. And next, that all of us should be practicing is a respiratory hygiene. Don't spit in public places. Always, when you're coughing or sneezing, always cough or sneeze into a flexed elbow or into a tissue, and always dispose of the tissue in a closed container. After coughing or sneezing, do not drop the tissue in a public place. Always put it into a container or a trash can that is closed. And before and after sneezing, always wash your hands. So all of us from today onwards, we should practice respiratory hygiene. Please avoid spitting in public places. Always sneeze into a tissue or to a closed elbow. And always dispose of your tissues in a closed container. And always wash your hands after and before coughing and sneezing. And always avoid a physical contact with others. Please don't shake hands or hug others. You can always use your alternate ways to greet your friends by alternate ways like namaste or hi or a wave. Always maintain a social distance to prevent COVID-19 infection, because prevention is always better. Should you use a mask? Yes, you can use a mask, and you can use a cloth mask. If you don't have a COVID-19 infection, and if you want to go out, always use a cloth mask. If you're caring for a patient with COVID-19 infection, or if you're a healthcare worker, use a surgical mask. Otherwise, a cloth mask is sufficient. But you should know that wearing a mask and glove is not a substitute for frequent hand washing. So hand washing is the best thing that you can do. But you can always wear a cloth mask so that whenever you sneeze or cough, you don't spread the infection to others. And whenever you use a mask, make sure that it covers the mouth and nose. Do not touch the mask with your hands in between. And always replace a mask when it is damp or soaked. And always put the mask in a closed container. Do not dispose of the mask in the public places. And never touch your hands with your mask with your hands. Do not touch the front of your mask with your hands. But you should know that wearing a mask and glove is not a substitute for frequent hand washing. The best thing that can prevent COVID-19 infection is frequent hand washing and social distancing. And if you are sick, if you have got fever, if you have got cough, if you have difficulty in breathing, always please isolate yourself, stay at home, and please call the healthcare facility before you walk into a healthcare facility, because you should not be spreading infection to others. So always isolate yourself first, then you call the healthcare facility prior, get an appointment, and then only come to the facility. And always follow the directions of your local healthcare authority. So that's about COVID-19 infection. And as you see, it's mainly prevention, and prevention. So please listen to your healthcare authorities. Please stay at home and stay safe. So social distancing and frequent hand washing. These are the two main things that can prevent COVID-19 infections. So since you're staying at home, you have been staying at home for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and there's a lot of stress and strain. It is normal to feel sad, stressed, confused, and scary. Because you're hearing a lot of news, bad news in the TV. From morning onwards, all breaking news, number of deaths, number of infections, the spread of infections, the number of deaths. It's normal to feel sad and stressed. But always try to maintain a healthy lifestyle with a proper diet, good sleep, exercise within your home. You can just walk inside the home or sport jogging, and always maintain a social contact through phone or to Skype or internet. Always maintain social contact with your family and friends. And do not resort to smoking and alcohol or other drugs to deal with your emotions. A healthy lifestyle and a good uh, hobby can make you feel better. And always get the right facts. Don't go after WhatsApp messages and what you see in the social media. Always try to get the correct facts. You have got Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. They got a website that gives you correct facts. You have got the WHO website, or you can go to the John Hopkins website and you get the correct facts. Or please don't go after uh, the false news that come in social media, WhatsApp or Facebook. And always lessen the time you spend watching media coverage. Don't spend your time from morning till evening watching how how many number of deaths and how many corona people are getting corona every day. Always lessen the time you spend watching and listening to media coverage. And it's the best time to start a hobby. Please start a hobby. Whatever you like, please start a hobby so that you don't feel stressed during these closed down days. So to conclude, my message would be to be safe and be smart. Be safe by social distancing. Always maintain a 1 meter distance. Frequent hand hygiene, washing the hands frequently with soap and water, and always practice a respiratory. Always you please sneeze or cough into a tissue or to a flex elbow and dispose of the tissues in a closed container. Don't spit in public places. And be smart. Keep yourself informed with the right information. Please don't follow whatever you see in social media. A lot of preventive medications, preventive drugs that have been circulated in social media. There are no drugs as of now that can prevent COVID-19. And there are no foods or supplements that can prevent COVID-19. Eat a healthy diet, exercise, and keep yourself well informed about COVID-19. So be smart and please avoid spreading rumors in the social media. Verify everything you forward. So please don't spread rumors in social media. Listen to your local healthcare official and keep yourself healthy and active. So be safe and be smart during this lockdown period. And if you have any doubts, you can either email us at astintegratedlivercare@ashospital.com or WhatsApp at 811-998163, or you can download the telemedicine app at iOS or at Google Play Store and contact us for any further doubts you have. So thank you.